The office of the prophet is an office in the church that really represents the fullness of the whole body. The prophet and the prophetic voice is an overcomer. That means it's not a victimized life. If you look at Paul, he explains about his life. He's showing that things have happened to him, but he is not forsaken. He's not destroyed. The prophet represents either God's heart or man's situation. As a prophet, you're role-playing. A prophetic life means if you're covering the people, you'll see that the people we're covering will have certain cycles. As they're played out, we need to be overcomers, the victorious ones, coming out victorious over the cycles so that our people will be victorious over the cycle. What prophecy is, one part of it is the ability to see patterns and cycles in the Old and in the Old Testament, and how it is played out in the New, and how we can now come out of those cycles victoriously.
Okay, now, this word, okay, that I'm going to teach, remember you're on purpose, right? Yeah. We're on purpose, okay? And someone was so cute, they sent me an image of how to pronounce from the US, how to pronounce ecclesia, an ecclesiastical purpose, okay? So I got it going well now. I must put that image up, ecclesiastical purpose. So that is what we are discussing, and why do we do church? Why do we get together? Why did Pharaoh say, do not forsake the assembly? He said, do not forsake the assembly. Okay? Because that's in Hebrews 10. It says that we need to get together. We need to do church. Doing church well is what we are called to do. We're supposed to do church well. Okay? People, unfortunately, have not done it well. But you and I are supposed to do church well. Okay? Do it in the abilities and the qualities that God has released to us, the doctrines and the revelations God has given to us for us to do church well. You see, if you look at the Ten Commandments, like I said previously, it came on 2 tablets. It didn't come on 1 tablet. It came on 2 tablets because God, the first one is to do with God. The second one is to do with man. So the first one is to do with the invisible nature of God. Okay. The second lot is like, do not kill, do not commit adultery. All that has to do with man. So the first one is, I am God, you can't do anything about it. Okay, right? And the next one is, do not have any other God except for me. So that's why the 6th commandment on the other side is, do not kill. That means man is made in the image of God, so you cannot take man's life. You have to deal with it. Whoever man is, just deal with it. Not one point in your mind can you think, this person is a fool. Because the Bible says, Jesus says, if you say he's a fool, it's like killing someone. Because he's made in the image of God. Okay? And the second one, the second commandment says that you can't have in and agree on images. And the 7th commandment is do not commit adultery. Yeah. So it's translated from the invisible to the natural realm. And the 5th commandment is honor your father and mother so that you will live long. That commandment literally is the transition commandment. So you come down 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is when the invisible becomes embodied now, okay? And then everything else is to do with man. Yeah. You see how the transition is? So the whole point of the Bible or church or everything to do with God is the fact that we need, till we translate this God to man through our lives, okay, it becomes irrelevant. Think about that, okay? That means till you can translate this invisible God and our relationship that we have with this invisible God with man, okay? If I'm adulterous with God, I'm adulterous with man. If I can't keep my word to God, how do I translate it to man? So the whole idea of the 10 Commandments was just to show that how we translate this to everyday living. And so church is the place where you are given tremendous opportunity, okay, every single day to be able to practice the translation of how I translate my relationship with God with man. So the powerful words of John, in John, he says, if you say that you love God, I mean, this is serious stuff. And he says, but you hate your brothers and sisters, he says, you are a liar. Yeah. Wow. I mean, that is superb, because it says the whole thing there. That means I can't say I love God, I'm so spiritual, I love God, but I come to church, or I come to my family, or I come to the people around me, and I hate them, or dislike them, or I'm annoyed by them, or upset with them. Then he says that becomes a lie. Your vertical relationship becomes a lie. Isn't it cool? So what is church? Church is the place that we get to play God. That's right. It's where we get to play God. It's where we get to translate now to be as God to others. Ever forgiving, long suffering. You understand? Love, he says, what is love? And he says, and all the things we read about love in 1 Corinthians 13 is like long suffering, always hoping. And he's like, I can't do this. This is God. Yes, exactly. But now we're supposed to now, on a daily basis, do this exact thing and role play God. So that is the purpose of church. So the purpose of church, people thought, but the purpose of church is to then bring people in and evangelize them, so because they're all going to hell. And look, we can't evangelize them, okay, out of hell if on earth we bring them into hell. It's as simple as that. What are we bringing them into? The people out there trying to evangelize, okay, their lives are hellish. I've met missionaries. Okay, that is a colonial concept. The way they did missions. The way Paul does missions is very different. At prison, he sings. That's the way. How he won the jailer was not by cursing him so that his mother and father would die. He won the jailer by sitting in prison and singing songs. Come on. Okay? So much so that the whole prison shook and angels came and took him out, and the jailer gave his life to the Lord. That should be our evangelizing. Paul never evangelized. Paul evangelized being in prison. The greatest evangelist ever. Evangelized through tremendous problems. So you don't have to have money to evangelize. Okay, that's the wrong concept. Okay, let's get rich and then I'll bring people to Jesus. Wrong. Okay? It's in your chains that you bring out the joy of what it looks like to follow Jesus. It's in your misery, it is in your darkest moments that people can come to the Lord. And so church is a place where we are each one of us have written epistles. Like look at Rui. Okay, I know Rui from the time she was Rui, little Rui. Just stand up, student. Yeah, she needs a big hand and big clap. Come on, give her a big hand. Yeah. Okay, little Rui. Okay, here I used to she was Auntie Rui to me before because she was. You can sit down. Yeah, because she was Uncle Rohan's sister's best friend. And so when we used to go out those days, I used to see Rui because she was a party girl. She was out all the time, you know. And she used to hang out with really, really tough guys, you know. And so we used to look up to them when we were young, and we used to go, oh, these guys, you know. And here she is today, and I know her life story, okay. Here she is today, waiting out for me to come in my Jeep, okay. I know the story. She knows my story. I know her story. Now, church is to be able to now to make something cohesive for you by us hanging together and doing church together properly. Having the honor that I have for her, she having the honor she has for me. This is her aunt's niece. I mean, this is Shyami's niece. Am I correct? Yeah. But look how much she honors. That should demonstrate to someone what good church looks like. Come on, do you understand what I'm trying to say? So church is a place where people like you and me are the written epistles. We have stories. The whole Bible is full of these stories. And then God gives us the ability, He gives us a seat in this church. And He gives each one of you a seat, not just us. He gives each one of you a seat in this church. And then you're called now to judge life's stories in fairness and in righteousness. And somehow, God's mystical understanding is, if you are able to do that, your life becomes meaningful and better. Oh, wow. And I've just seen that happens. I can't explain it. It's mystical. That's why we do church. And then we listen to stories. And then we meet people. Different people, different walks of life. And then really learning to evaluate, okay, really learning to discern and bring redemption to their lives by the way we look at them. This is what church is. How we bring redemption to people's lives, the way we look at them, okay? By that, somehow their life becomes better and our life becomes better. I can't explain it. It's like, it's a mind-blowing concept, church. Okay, that is what we are supposed to do. I mean, at the end of the day, if you just think about it, okay? We are all together. You know, each one of you know your story. I don't have to tell you know how, so let's put it like this. Like, I mean, let's be real, okay? How terrible and horrible your life story is. Let's put it like this. I mean, there's no one who can say no to that. That's really a crazy story. That's a real crazy thing. There's no one who can say no to that thing. If I say, let me tell you how terrible and horrible your life story is. And if you really look at it like, oh my God, yes. I have been to hell and back, man. That's literally, you will be able to say it. Everyone here will be able to say that. But that's not something that we ponder on every day, do we? Why? Because they say, no, but because of the word, Kirby. Yes. Because of the word, somehow we have brought in meaning to our miserable lives, and we become divinity. We brought God in to our humanity. Yes. You see, that is what you're called to do, and that is why Jesus came as a man. Jesus came as a man for the simple reason he could have come as a God. He can come with 10 heads and 10 hands, but he didn't. He's the suffering God on the cross who came as a man, and that is why we love him, and that's why we can relate with him. That's why he connects, that's why he touches our heart, because when we see Jesus on the cross, and we see a man hanging on a cross, okay, and a man who has gone through hell and back, and been raised from the dead, it says, I can. Yes. Now, that is your story. That is why we do church. And that is why, if you do church with all the religious cover-ups, and all the hidings that people do at church today, it becomes powerless. That is why it becomes irrelevant and powerless, because people are not taking these stories of people's lives, the different the living epistles, they're not pulling these stories out, okay? And they're not presenting these stories to people, and therefore it becomes religion, and it's not life-transforming. Do you get it? So that is how we do church. We do church by basically transcending our condition and demonstrating, hey, look, hey, I think I'm doing well. Miserable, horrible life, okay, terrible, destructive, nearly dead life is suddenly living. Look, this has to be God. Anyone knows about my life will be able to say that. We make the mistake when we suddenly have taken on, okay, the divinity in a way that we've forgotten where we started. And today, charismatic Christianity is about, don't remind, you don't have to tell me about your errors, you don't have to tell me about your faults. God doesn't remember, so yes, read it again. He says, I will remember your sins no more. He will. He chooses because it was so ugly. He chooses to forget. And that should give us some sort of, like, whoa, I can relax in front of him. Yeah. Because when he looks at me, he doesn't see me for who I was or even who I am now. Come on. Huh? He somehow sees that beautiful nature of God that is inside of me. He sees that in his fullness, which is his Son, which is awesome. Do you understand that? But the big mistake, I'm not telling you to be condemned because he's forgiven you. So you don't have to think I'm a sinner. You're not a sinner. But you know full well that if that part if His presence, if His Spirit, if we don't identify with Him continuously, we can go into that situation in a second. And knowing that will always keep an increase of God on your life. That's not identifying with your sin. He's forgotten my sin. So if I judge, I won't even judge myself. Why? Because I know I can't be judged because the price has been paid. So I know how powerful the blood is. It washed me clean. But I'll tell you, without Him, I'll be just, yeah. You know, the guy who brought me into salvation was Professor Mark Corey. Such a timid, he was an academic. He wrote the law of thought in this country. Such a timid academic, and he'd always say, in his very, very quiet voice, he'd say, Kirby, if God wasn't with me, I would be an axe murderer. You know, and he was such an academic and so beautiful, and there's no way that you can even see that. But he says, you don't understand. If I didn't have the Spirit on me, I could have killed people. You know, so that's the truth of the matter. And why we do church is we believe that getting together and discussing God in this way changes people's lives, if we are transparent. But what we've got today is a whole lot of religious priests who can't identify with who they were, okay? Neither can they identify with who they really are. And that is why everything is predicated on Matthew 18. Matthew 18 is how I run my life is according to Matthew 18. That means I will now live my life according to the mercy that I've received. And I will live, therefore, when I do church, I will always judge in righteousness. I will always dikaion, be able to evaluate between good and evil always. I will be able to evaluate everyone else's life according to the mercy that I've received. That's the best way to do it. Okay, so Matthew 18 is when the guy goes before the king. You remember the story? The king tells him, I will forgive you. You remember the story? He says, I will forgive you of everything. He says, please forgive me. I have no money to pay you. He says, I will forgive you all your debt. You remember the story? Yeah. Okay, he goes out. He gets the forgiveness. He leaves out. Okay, this is the religious group. Huh? Okay, they leave out, and then suddenly they see the person in the same mess. Not even maybe not 1 minute ago. You are on your knees, wanting redemption. Okay? But they leave that place and they go out and they see someone doing the same thing, even on a smaller scale. That guy's borrowed money from him as well, and all that, but on a smaller scale. But what does he do? Okay? What does he do? Okay? He catches the guy by the scruff of his neck and he says, pay me back my money. You understand that? And then the king hears about it and he says, this is not fair. The word fair, that this is not righteous. This is not right that you do that. Because the same mercy that you received is now the same mercy. It's the way you live your life. So you live your life through righteousness. That means, so in a community like this, we are given the opportunity on a daily basis, on a Tuesday, on a Sunday, when you meet for sports meet. Every sports meet, we lose a couple of people and then we bring them back. Again. Sports, why? Someone asked me a question, but Kirby, it's crazy. Why do you do sports meet? It's crazy because it's like war. And people get upset and offended. But why do you do it? I said, because that's our culture. We don't run away from it. We face it, and every year we face it as new people. Okay, we've grown with sports meet, right? And we've grown to be fair. Sports meet time is the exact time that you can practice dikaion, righteousness. Not get offended. Treat everyone fairly, equally. You understand that? You cheat, but you're not cheating unfairly. I'm telling you. There's honor among thieves. Roshit knows this. So they say, but why? It's a disaster because you can lose people. People get offended. It's like, yes. Do people get offended? Yes. But it's getting less and less and less and less. We are all playing more fairly, and it's getting better and better and better. And we are, at the end of it, you identify with yourself, your human nature, and you transcend it. Sportsman. That's why we do sportsman. That's why we do everything that we do is because now we are given the opportunity to come into a place called church and then judge righteously and judge fairly. Okay, the word righteousness means fairness. It means evaluating between good and evil continuously. And somehow, as you do that, your life improves. If you're in a mess today, it's because you could not discern, okay? Believe me when I tell you that that's the tree in the garden. He said, do not eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Because if it's a binary system, if you're living life by good, bad, good, bad, good, bad, okay, you're in big, big trouble. Yeah. That's why you're given church. Because you've been living your life under the law. Good, bad, good, bad, good, evil, good, evil, good, evil. And then you come to church and you meet people talking in tongues, talking in tongues, hallelujah, praise the Lord, and they leave the place and they're putting a cigarette in their mouth. Church. Okay? I hope it's a cigarette, but sometimes it's a joint as well. This is what I heard. Okay? Or then suddenly they say hallelujah, hallelujah, and then you go to the next door, you go to a club, and suddenly it's like, oh my God, so-and-so is hallelujahing, and look at the mini skirt. And on the table. Okay? Question is, what were you doing there? Or simply, they say hallelujah, hallelujah, praise the Lord, talking in tongues, and they borrow money, and guess what? They're not paid me back. Okay? Or, same thing, different issues. Okay? And now you are called, church, when the heck would you get opportunities like this? When you'll never get opportunities like this. If you protect yourself, hang around with people that are only your kind, birds of a feather, flock together. Okay? Protect yourself from getting hurt. You're not immune, but then you're given the ability to come to church and then suddenly see all this happening, okay? And now you're supposed to discern between good and evil and rightly divide and rightly judge a situation. And you being able to judge that situation rightly, okay, believe me, everything is prophetic. Your ability to judge a situation correctly and rightly is, what's happening? Everything okay? Yeah. Your ability to discern and judge that situation rightly and correctly when you're seeing these different people that are in your midst, okay, and your judgment on that correctly, believe me, is life and death for you. I'm not taking it I'm taking it very serious. It's life and death for you. Your next big problem is literally hanging on the way you judge that situation. That situation has presented itself in church. It's a prophetic culture, so that situation that is around the corner, you could be able to walk through it in power and authority, but it's given to you right here to be able to be a judge of righteousness. So Solomon asked for one thing. Solomon asked for the ability to, he said, give me wisdom. Why? To be able to discern between good and evil. To be able to rightly judge your people. That is what Solomon asked for. Am I correct? This is the one thing. I mean, God says, because you asked me this, he says, not only will I give you long life, I will give you much more than this. What? The ability to rightly discern between good and evil of different situations. Think about the people in this church. Have you rightly discerned their lives? Very crucial. It is the tree of life. When you can rightly discern between good and evil in these people's lives, okay, and come to that place and say, okay, I've seen it correctly. Then we're doing church correctly, and not only that, there's power in your life. That's sickness. You can defeat it. Because everything is energy caught somewhere. It's trapped somewhere. And then you're given mirrors of yourself. Why you don't like that in that person? Because that's exactly you. That is who you are. And your ability to judge it, okay, and condemn it, okay, means you're condemning yourself. Because these are all a part of one body. Your ability to discern it correctly and understand it is life to you. It's between life and death. Okay? I mean, if you look at 1 Corinthians 6, here it is. 1 Corinthians 6. Here it is. It's really good. 1 Corinthians 6 says it like this, okay? Okay, let's read it from 5 so you understand the problem, okay? This is really good, okay? 5. It is actually reported that there is sexual immorality among you. Is it there? Among you. And such sexual immorality as is not even named among the Gentiles. That means there is sexual immorality among, now Paul is writing to the church of Corinth and he says, I've got to know that there is sexual immorality in the church. Okay? But this immorality is not even the Gentiles who don't know God are doing this kind of thing. Okay? That's crazy, huh? Okay? And then he explains it. That a man has his father's wife. Exclamation mark. Paul dealing with the church. And you are puffed up, and have not rather mourn that he who has done this deed might be taken away from you. Is it there? So he says, there's a guy who's hanging around with you guys, and he's literally sleeping with his father's wife. That's Paul's problems. Okay? And he says, but the problem is not he's sleeping with his father's wife. That's not the problem. Okay? The problem is that he's puffed up and he's boasting about it, and you guys are saying, oh, that's cool. That means you have not rightly judged this matter. You're not telling him to throw him out. They said, you have not discerned in your heart that this is not right, this is off. You're not discerned that. The ability to discern that will keep you alive. Is it there? Okay? And so talking about that, then he goes on to verse 12. We're talking to church, we're talking about purpose. Okay? Verse 12. For what have I to do? Listen carefully. For what have I to do with judging those who are outside? He says, I can't judge those outside the church because they don't know God. Do not judge those who are inside. Is it there? But those who are outside, God judges. Wow. Therefore, put away yourself, this evil person. You see, he says, isn't that so cool? I love this. Here's a secret, a huge, huge secret. The ones outside, God judges. The ones inside, you judge. Wow. Just you understand? That doesn't mean judgment and condemning them, but rightly discerning between good and when you say judge, the word judge comes from the word rightly discerning between good and evil. Rightly dividing something. Not condemning someone. Okay? But it's like, hey, I just see this. I rightly discern this. But do you rightly discern it? That power to rightly discern something, okay, is called wisdom, and that wisdom is a blessing and prosperity and power over your life. Now watch this, okay? So then he goes on to say, I heard recently that some young guys were at WOW, were getting together, and please don't be condemned, okay? I've spoken to some of you, so it's okay, right? But I've heard some young guys in WOW were smoking up, okay? And smoking up a bit of weed, okay? And so my problem was not the smoking of the weed. Okay, I heard that people got together to smoke the weed. Smoking the weed is a problem. Why do you need weed when you got God? Number one. Okay, right? Because He's your highest and best high. Okay, so say you have a struggle with smoking weed. That's fine, but you can deal with that struggle with God and with your home coach. But when you start getting together, it becomes a culture. And then it's like this guy who is agreeing with everyone and saying, oh, why we're smoking weed? Do you want to shot much and do you want to get high much and do you want to trip? You see, that is Paul's problem. Do you understand that? Paul's problem is that everyone around them is agreeing, that's okay, without being able to say, hey, you know what? You got a struggle. It's a struggle. Just deal with it. It's a struggle. It's a struggle. Just deal with it. It's okay. God loves you. In truth. And if you're really in truth, God will empower you to stop. You got it? Okay? So this is Paul's issue. Now, it's gone very quiet in here. You guys all are not smoking weed, right? Okay. Now, watch this, okay? Now watch this, okay? So now, then he goes, he says, dare any of you, chapter 6, dare any of you, having a matter against another, go to law before the unrighteous. Is it there? And not before the saints. You do not know that saints will judge the world. Is it there? And the world will be judged by you. Are you unworthy of judging the smallest matter? Is it there? Do you not know that we shall judge angels? how much more the things that pertain to life. So he says, come on, guys. You guys need to be able to really rightly discern between good and evil. Truth should be at the foremost, at the forefront. It should be on top of your mountain, truth. Okay? Because that's what church is, the place of truth. It is, I said it before, it is the bastion of truth. So between husband and wife, mother and father, children, among each other, we stand in truth. It doesn't matter if you made mistakes. If you've fallen, it doesn't matter. What matters is truth. You understand that? And that means we've discerned between good and evil. You got it? And if you keep going on, what it reads that power to discern, rightly decide between good and evil, gives you power to live life in success and victory. That ability to be able to discern between good and evil. That's what the Bible says. That's what church is. Okay? There is no hypocrisies. Okay? Because the hypocrisies are out there in the world. Okay? Why do we want to convert people and bring them back into a hypocrisy? You got it? Yeah? So say I got a problem with drinking or alcohol or weed or something like that, then the issue is simply, hey, you know what? I know that I have still not tapped into the fullness of God's joy. You understand that? That's where we should be. And I'm praying and I'm wanting and I'm desiring that God will fill me so much that I'll be completely satisfied that I won't have to depend on those things. You see? Now that's rightly dividing. Rightly dividing is not going out with your friends and say, hey, buddy, this is good, this is the way to go. You see the difference? Yeah? So then there's power in the church. There's power in the church and there's power in your lives. I'm going to show you something, okay? What I'm going to show you now will really blow you away because the Bible is a story, and I think people have really got it wrong because if you look at from the beginning to end, it's a story of people's lives, and we are supposed to read it and rightly divide. That's what it is. It's a crazy story. You'll see powerful grace in the story. You see, what happens is we made doctrines out of the stories. But like I said, Trevor's story, Nehemiah's story, Rohan's story, Daya's story, come on, Aline's story. You see, people's stories, right? Okay? Your ability to look at these stories and rightly divide, okay, causes you to have success in life. Right. Think about that. That's why church is there, okay? So now, what's the difference between these stories, okay, and the stories of Abraham, the stories of David? How do you just get it? Yeah. Okay, that's why people get bored reading the Bible. They go, what is this rubbish? No, it's stories. It's very, very complex stories. Yeah. Hear me out. And we are supposed to go through the stories, okay? What Bible is a whole lot of your stories that you're supposed to read through and judge. People say, Kirby, how do you have revelation? That's how I have revelation. I don't depend on someone else's judgment of Jacob. I don't depend on someone else's judgment of Moses. I don't depend on someone else's judgment. I'm supposed to, because it was, if Moses was standing in front of me and I read his story, it's as good as Johan giving me a letter and telling me his life story. Right. And when I have the ability to go through Johan's story and know exactly and rightly divide between good and evil and come to a place where I will treat him with the same mercy that I receive according to Matthew 18, where I have been completely forgiven, I have been set free, God has taken me, ransomed me, redeemed me, okay? And when I can't now view Johan's story through those eyes, okay, I have not then rightly divided between good and evil and shown mercy to my brother. You see? So this story of David is the same story. It's like Johan telling me his story. And so when I'm reading David's story, okay, because the Bible is not, there's no opinions. There are no opinions in the Old Testament. It's narration, some crazy, like today I read a crazy story. I mean, I've been reading it before, but today I really went into it. I was like, what the heck? Like it was in one, I'll quickly tell you the story. It just doesn't make any sense unless now I have to, like your story. Your story doesn't make any sense. It comes to me, Okay? You tell me a story, and now I have the ability to look at it through the lens of grace, according to Matthew 18, according to the fact that, hey, I was forgiven so much, so now when you tell me your story, I have to look at it through that lens. And my ability to judge it in that way gives life to you. Okay, so now this one, I don't know if you ever read it. I think it's 1 Kings 13. It's a story where it's a very obscure man of God. It just says the man of God, and then it says an old prophet. So I didn't understand the story completely, but I'm reading it. A man of God, who's obviously another prophet, turns up at Rehoboam's altar that is on Bethel. Okay, and he's now built an altar on Bethel. That means he's built an altar to another god on Bethel. Remember Bethel? Yeah. Remember the place called Bethel? What is Bethel? When Jacob goes and gets into Bethel and he puts a stone and he sleeps on the stone, he says, "My God, I could have missed. God was around me. This is the house of God." That's Bethel. Yeah. And I said it might be in your workplace, it might be in your marriage, it might be in your industry, it can be your Bethel. Remember? Okay, now years have gone, hundreds of years have gone, and there's a king called Rehoboam, I think Jeroboam, and he is now set up an altar worshipping another god at Bethel. And it just says, it's a crazy story, there's a man of God who comes in and literally prophesies to the king that because of what he's doing, he would be destroyed, and the altar would split. And literally while prophesying, the altar splits. I mean, it's a crazy prophetic word. I mean, who is this guy? He just says a man of God. He came and prophesied, the altar split, and the king was like blown away that the altar split, and he walked out after doing this, and another prophet comes and catches hold of this guy and tells him, "Hey, man of God, why don't you come for a meal at my house?" He said, "No, I'm fasting and praying. I'm not going to drink water or eat any meals. I'm supposed to go on my way." Then he says, "No, an angel came to me. I'm an old prophet. An angel came and told me to invite you home." This guy goes home, sits at this older prophet's house, and suddenly the anointing comes on this prophet again, and then he says, "I've got a prophetic word for you." And he said, "What is it?" He says, "Because you broke the word of the Lord when the Lord told you not to eat and drink," he says, "from now onwards, you won't even be buried in your father's tomb." The guy gets up and leaves, and a lion comes and eats him. This guy who split what a short-lasted prophetic life. Everyone knew him. He was the man of the hour. In a second, believing another prophet's word who said an angel came. He said, "I'm a prophet." The angel came. He came and he ate and drank. And then he leaves the house. A lion comes and eats him and kills him. I mean, and I was like, what the heck? Why am I like, I'm saying, there has to be some meaning in this. This has to make some sense to me. Because that life could be my life. I'm freaked out. Now, you see what I'm trying to say? Because those days, I was trying to read the Bible. I'll tell you what. I'll pick the Bible up when I was young, okay? But I was a real rotter, right? But I want a word from the Lord, so I'll pick the Bible up like this, and I'll read. I'll go through the Bible, and as I pick up Psalms and I open up Psalms, and if it has anything to do with bad people, like he's going to destroy the wicked, and he's going to, he's going to smash them to pieces, and all that. I just okay, I can't read it. Why can't I read it? And I was like, well, why can't I read it? Because I believe that is me. Has that ever happened to you? Yeah, come on. Yes, but the more I came into grace, the more I could read that, and no, it's not for me. See, but I had to have that struggle with God to find out His goodness. I mean, it was then only I realized, oh my God, it wasn't me. Okay, and so when I read that story, I had to read it again and again and again. I've still not found what it means, and I'm telling you, I'm going to get there. Okay, but stories like that are stories of people. Now, I mean, we've had friends who, they get married and, suddenly their mom dies of a sudden crash, and then they get married, and 2-3 months later their husband dies of another sudden crash, and, they didn't know God, they were godless, and we told them so many times to try to tell them about God, but they were not open. And then suddenly, bang, 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 suddenly happens, and they still don't know God. They don't even connect it to God. Come on, I'm just trying to tell you. Okay? They might end up at church one day, and then we got another written epistle. We've got another crazy story of someone's life who's gone through, and then your ability to discern. Now, this is the key thing. Your ability after to discern, man, why did that happen to him? How did that happen to him? Why are they still not working? Why is the company still in trouble? Okay, these I'm just asking questions. Why is he having so many court cases? But he preaches. Just asking questions. Huh? These are written epistles. Your ability to rightly discern why is your power. And when you can do that and come into the rightly dividing and being able to see it all through grace, all through, the same mercy that I received. No, hold on. Because as you look at people's lives, the first thing you need to look at is your life. Yeah. How much of mercy do you have today? You're alive today. You're not supposed to be alive. Huh? You are successful today. You're not supposed to be. Okay? Maybe you're not successful. Okay? Maybe you're sick. But at least, okay, the people around you love you. Okay? I mean, I'm just trying to show you. You start realizing the mercy that has been given you, and then you're realizing that every thought right there is a trap. Wow. Yeah. And when you're looking at the written epistles around us, you realize, oh my God, I like Fiona said it beautifully that day, if there could be a thought bubble that comes up every time you see someone, okay, you would be careful of your thoughts. Yeah. And believe me, those thoughts are seen by the devil and they're seen by God himself. Yeah. Constantly. And so those thoughts are being played out. And when you have the ability to stop those thoughts and rightly divide and see through the lenses of grace and then place the thoughts on the person in the right way, I'm telling you, your success depends on it. Your healing depends on it. Your victory depends on it. Believe me, everything depends on it. That's church. I'm telling you, this is how we do it. The story is, the Bible is full of stories. Crazy stories. Crazy stories. I mean, just let's look at David's story. David became king. He slept with a man's wife. He didn't just sleep with a man's wife. He called him, gave him a letter with his assassination written on it. And he gives the letter to him and says, now go and give it to the army commander. So he's giving the letter that says, kill me. And God is saying, I love David. Now, for you to be able to rightly divide, don't just run away from the story. You run away from the story, you're finished. For you to be able to discern, what is God seeing? What is he dividing? How do I see that? And now I come to church, and practically to live David's story here is your calling. Not sleeping with the women. But practically to live how God saw David is how you live here. You understand that? That, believe me, now, I'll tell you Jacob's story. I wish I could read it. Let's read it. Let's read a bit of it, okay? Let's see, Jacob's name became Israel, right? Isn't it cool? Okay, Israel. The name Israel, it has really baffled me from the time, honestly, it has baffled me from the time I ever read Jacob's story, because Israel means the one who fights with God and prevails. That's Israel, that means you. Israel means you, the one who fights with God and prevails. Just think about that. That should really, it's an amazing thought. What is it? When you have to really think deep about that one. The word Israel, his name was Jacob, Jacob means, really cool, is the one who was on a man's heel. You know when people are on your heel. If you understand a bit about boxing and stuff like that, you see some people are putting pressure on all the time. Like, it's a good bout when the guy's on your heel, man, you can't move. You see? And so, or if you're in sports or whatever it is, you're running behind someone, and someone is literally, when you look, the guy is right behind you. You had races like that, right? Okay? The man is on the other one's heel. That's what Jacob means. Then he's at a place called Peniel, okay? And he's going back now to meet his brother, who he has betrayed, he had robbed from, or whatever it is. Let's put it like that. That's the scandal on his life. Let's put it like that, okay? He's on his way. He's gone to a place called Jabbok, where he is. I did a message a long time ago, said a place called Jabbok, where he's emptied himself completely. Okay, he's gone to a place called Peniel, and he's waiting in Peniel. And I don't know how it happens, but it says, I think it's in verse 35. Let's jump there. Let's jump there. Genesis 35. I think chapter 35. It's just an awesome story. Okay. Genesis 35. I think. Hold on. Let me get it for you. Yeah, it's in 32. In 32, in verse 22. And he says, and he rose and he took his 2 wives, his 2 female servants, and his 11 sons, and he crossed over the ford of Jabbok. He took them and sent them over to the brook, and sent them over, and he sent over what he had. Then Jacob was left alone. Say, Jacob was left alone. Okay? And it says, this is so just like, I don't know how it came, it just turned up. Okay? And a man wrestled with him until the break of day. It's not like they're not explaining anything. That's why, isn't it crazy? They're not explaining who the heck is this man. He was alone, and suddenly, from nowhere, he's fighting with a man. And he's wrestling with a man, and until the break of day. Is it there? Okay? And he says, sorry, and he goes on. Then Jacob was left alone, and man wrestled with him until the breaking of day. Now, when he saw that he did not prevail against him, this is so cool, he touched the socket of his hip, and the socket of Jacob's hip was out of joint, and he wrestled with him. And he said, let me go, for day breaks. But he said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. It's a weird story. This is a weird story. Okay, why is it weird? Because the last thing I want when I'm wrestling with anyone or fighting with anyone is his blessing. Just think, isn't this? Suddenly you end up with a fight with a guy, and you're not letting. He said, and this guy, it seems like there were some rules in the wrestling match. I'll tell you the rules, because this guy could break his leg at any time he wanted. But he didn't. That was against the rules. But so when he did not prevail, so he's not prevailed. Because generally I'll break your leg and I'll say I prevailed. I said I was better, I put you on a lock and you broke a leg, and I'm so good at what I did. But this guy, he was not playing that kind of game. Do you understand that? So he broke his leg, and once he broke his leg, he did not prevail. That's the heart of this man, whoever this man is. His heart is, oh man, I can't prevail. Jacob's awesome, okay? But I'll dislocate his leg so that I can get out of his grip. Otherwise, I'll be here till morning. You see? And then he says, Jacob is a strange, peculiar guy who'd ask his God, the one who's contending with, bless me. Isn't it awesome? And then he says, I'll bless you, but I'm changing your name from Jacob to Abraham, to Jacob to Israel. And Israel means the one who fought with God and prevailed. Okay? That blows me away in every area. Because why does it blow me away in every area? Because Israel means the one who fought with God and prevailed. Now, that doesn't mean works. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. That shows you the heart of God, because he's the one who named him. It's not Jacob who said, I fought with God and prevailed. It was God. And I love it because I grew up with my dad, and my dad was hunter and fisherman and stuff like that, and we used to go hunting. And so every time he could shoot or do something great, that for me I aspired to transcend my little baby self and then become like my dad and shoot something and I had to have a good shot. And so when I did it, I could feel my dad's pride in saying, hey, just like me now. That's exactly what it means. Come on, that's what it means. That's what it means, because he named him. It's like when you're young, you have a hand fight with a young kid, and then you're fighting with a young kid, and then suddenly you can put it down, but you can say, this guy is strong, and you're just like, okay, all right, okay, but he's really strong. You're not pretending. You're not trying to flatter him. He can really put you down, and you don't try anymore. You can put your full effort, Okay, but you don't try anymore because you know you got it, man. Okay, that's what God did there. That's what God did there. It's awesome. And so we are called Israel because we are now transcending ourselves, and we are called Israel. You're called Israel, the one who can prevail. That's what we are called. Okay? So in a church like this, what we are called to do is to contend with these deep problems. Like, look at the problems we're tackling. Even the United Nations is not tackling problems that we are tackling. Like, no, seriously. It's a serious thing. We're tackling problems like, how do we live forever? They won't even think of talking about something like that. Right. Think about that. That's a serious question. They won't even think of it. Because they need to transcend humanity to think like that. Yeah. But you small-minded one, no, they are profound questions. How do we bring real peace to this world? Can we change this nation? Yeah. Look at the questions that we're asking. These questions should be asked at Parliament. We do talk about it every Tuesday, and we talk about it every Sunday. Yes. And we are not joking about this. No one is laughing. We are very seriously pondering about this. Yes. Either we are damn fools, or we really believe that it's possible. We can transcend and become just like Daddy. We can transcend, and He will say, you are one who can contend with me and then look just like me. Yeah. And it was God's humility. I mean, it was God's humility, isn't it? To tell Jacob, man, you're so good. Man, you can contend with me and you can win, man. It's like what Jesus did. He came as a man and He said, you can do it just like me. I'm going to show you. You can do it. You see? That is the story. That is Israel. That is who He became. But before that, He was the one at the heel. And then now, He was always called the one at the heel. Huh? You were always at the heel. You were just about to get a deal, and you couldn't make it. You were just about to sign the contract, but you couldn't make it. You were just about at the heel, and then now you are the one who will prevail. And you transcend that. And you waited. And it was just there, and then you couldn't make it. But that's our stories, our life stories. Come on, all your life stories are the same. All your life stories are that story, man. That you struggled. You're not struggling with God because that's not God. It's actually probably an angel or something like that. I mean, He could throw his socket out and have joined in a second. Yeah. But He didn't think that would be prevailing. He wanted to be fair. So just to get away. Okay? And He said, this guy, Jacob, is awesome. You are awesome, church. I've seen your struggle. I've seen your patience. I've seen how much you waited. I see that you struggled and you waited and waited. You were just about to close it. You were just about to close it, then you went away. You were just about to close it, then you went away. You were just about to close it, then you went away. I've seen that struggle. But day is about to break, and you are about to be called Israel, the one who prevails. And He gives you that ability to say, and that's why we love these stories. We love these stories. We love Jesus because in those moments we find our transcendence. We suddenly find wow, I'm here. I don't know how long this is going to last for. Let's hope it's going to last. And then we identify and then we preach grace and identify in the finished work. You are a finished work. You are the Son of God. And we are preaching manifest sonship because you are now a lion on the top of the mountain. And then things go wrong. And then we get back to these messages. You get it? We're always continuously in this. We suddenly out of water and we're breathing. And then suddenly we're drowning again. Huh? Okay, but those are the stories. And the ability to discern why, how, good and evil, and place the same mercy that you have received on every situation of every person's lives. We start doing church well. You understand that? How much I've been redeemed. Man, to get here, honestly, I could look at the misery of it, or I can look at the fact that you know what? There's been so much mercy, so much grace, so much forgiveness to get here. And now I've been given the opportunity, each one of you, to just place that same thing. To whom much is given, much is required. You got it? And then we're doing church well. And if you look at Jacob's life, this is there. But if you look at the story about where he actually called the place Bethel, it's just quite an awesome story because he's in the middle of he's running away from Esau. You know the story, right? How many of you know the story of Jacob? Yeah? He's running away from Esau, his brother. And people think, and this is the crazy thing, can you just jump into 33? In 33, I'm going to show you this. I want to break the scandal. I want you to be able to rightly discern. Because all these stories are being given to us. If we can discern this rightly, then we can discern you rightly. You got it? So if you look at Jacob meets Rachel, where is it? Isaac blesses Jacob. Look at what happened, okay? In 27. No, 25. 25. So when Jacob and Esau were born, here's the story. Everyone thinks that Jacob robbed Esau of his blessing. That's what everyone has been taught, right? Yes. Come on, how many of you know this? Jacob robbed Esau of his blessing, right? Okay, and who told you that? Well, my pastor told me that, and then I was taught this throughout generations, and so now we are constantly looking at people, okay, through a scandal that we've not understood, because we are given these stories to rightly discern. Every story is like your story. Okay, every story is like your story. Without understanding that in the beginning, when Jacob was in the womb, okay, where Esau and Jacob was there, this is what the Lord said to the mother in verse 23. And the Lord said, chapter 25, verse 23. He said, 2 nations are in your womb. 2 people shall be separated from your body. 1 people shall be stronger than the other. The older shall serve the younger. That's God talking before they were even born. Think about that. That means God has already told the father and mother who should have the inheritance. If you got a prophecy like that, you'll fulfill it without any problem. If you got a prophecy like that, you'll say, okay, this is what God told me to do with the inheritance. And then you'll say, this is what I'm supposed to do with the inheritance. I'm not supposed to do anything else. Come on, Jesus. Okay? But what happened was, and then as they grew, it says it like this. It says in verse 25, in chapter 25, in verse, where is it? 34, at the end of it says, and Esau despised his birthright. Is it there? And Esau at the end, in verse 34. Yeah, in verse 34, the end of it. It says, and Esau despised his birthright. Is it there? That's Esau despised his birthright. So here's a guy who literally exchanges his birthright contractually, not illegally. Now, you're sitting on a judgment seat. You have to look at the story not like how your pastor told you. We are given these stories because these are the stories of your lives. It can be the story of my life. It can be the story of people who walk through this door and you're supposed to minister. But if we can't judge this story properly, how the heck are we going to judge their story properly? Because we're saying, no. Jacob was always, he was a thief. That's why his redemption story was great. No, he was never a thief. God had planned and ordained him in the mother's womb that he would have the birthright. God had told the parents that they should give it. He contractually, his brother hated his position. Contractually, his brother contractually wrote the contract and gave it to him. So now, who are we discerning as the one who was not keeping to the contract? Come on. The one who was blind. That's why he's blind. Okay? And then he can't see. And the mother had to literally tell Jacob, who had been given the birthright, hey, Jacob, you are being cheated. Yeah. You are being cheated. We have to now do this. So now, see, it's a very complex story. It's not black or white. It's not good or evil, good or bad, good or bad. Because there's no story in the Bible that's just good or bad. Look at all the stories. It's very complex. In fact, it's just like your story. You can't say why you did it, but if you try to explain how you did it in a court of law, you might really win if the judge is righteous. But it's too complicated. They won't understand why you did what you did. But why did you do it? If you look at it black or white, if you're eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, I'm going to look like a really bad guy here. But you don't understand what I did. I did it because these things that happened before. And I'm telling you, if you can listen without a heart of judgment, you will take the scandal of my life and you will rightly divide because you're a judge. And God has given you the ability to judge. And your ability to judge it correctly, okay, will set me free and will set everyone else free. And you will be free. And then And so then they had to deceive the father. Because the father was already very deceived. He was already blinded. And because he liked the food that was prepared by the other brother, he was about to give the whole birthright that was contractually given by God and contractually taken by this man, contractually correctly. He was about to take it and give it away in a second. Yes. And then what happens is now he has to leave. And he loses everything and he has to go. And then he's working. If you look at the story, it's beautiful. It's a gorgeous story because he's working now 7 years. And this guy, he goes to another guy who treats him the same. Come on, story of your life, right? Anything that you've done? No. Come on, Jesus. And they say, no, he got cheated because of he's paying now for the sins that he did. No! That's a self-righteous thing that we discern and say, oh, you know why he's suffering now? Maybe because of this. No. Look at it from the mercy that you have received.
Not religion.
Not from the religious thing. He's not paying for anything. He's met another thief. He's met another thief. That man can't do any justice for him. That man is a rogue. He promises him, and then he breaks his promise. And he wakes up, you have to read that one. It's so good. Okay, he promises him. Okay, and it's in chapter 29. Okay, he works for one daughter, okay, Rachel, and then he's supposed to marry Rachel after 7 years of working. Then chapter 29, verse 21, it says, then Jacob said to Laban, give me my wife, for my days are fulfilled, that I may go into her. Okay, you can define what into her means. Okay, and Laban gathered together all the men of the place and made a feast. Now it came to pass in the evening, they would have drunk a whole lot for this to happen, right? That he took Leah, his daughter, and brought her to Jacob, and he went into her. This is after the feast. This is what I keep telling you young guys. This is like that movie, what is it called? The guys who are in Vegas and they wake up one night, I can't remember, okay? Anyway, verse 24, okay? And Laban gave him maid Zilpah to his daughter Leah as a maid. So it came to pass in the morning that behold, so good. I love it because the word behold is such a heavy word, right? It's like he wakes up in the morning and he's like, behold, it's not Rachel, it's Leah. So good. So he's like, what the heck? And then he goes to him and he says, no, well, you have to, don't you know that that's not the way we do things here? And he brings his tale and he says, well, you know, you'll have to work for another 7 years if you want her. And he says he loved him so much, and loved her so much that she continued. And he finally marries the second girl as well. And then 10 times this guy doesn't pay him the right. Come on, you think you got it bad? 10 times. 10 times. It was short change for money. Come on, okay? All right? And this guy got cheated. And then finally, what he does, again, he does something phenomenal. He tells him, you know what, man, I'm getting played here. Okay? So at least he's saying, he says, what I will do is I will use my anointing and my power. And he does something in terms of economics that he gets all the herds of cattle. Okay, and he runs away and he takes all the cattle and that he had got, okay, through very mystical, powerful stuff. It's like my shares were owned by someone else. People didn't understand it. My shares were owned by another man. By the time I died to it, I got to my jabok. And I said, it doesn't matter, I'll lose it. Okay, by the time I got to the lawyers, it changed. And then when it changed, just like Jacob's story, mystical, okay, I said, I'm keeping it. And then all the Christians started saying, without rightly discerning between good and evil. That's what happened. And they, without rightly discerning between good and evil, they started saying, what you're doing is wrong. And we said, because he originally said that his shares were his shares, and your shares were yours. I said, yes, he originally said, but he started changing his way he treated me, so now I win. Why? Because I have rightly divided and discerned between good and evil right here. And I saw that this man is going to cheat me. And if God did a miracle, I'm going to hold on to that miracle and say, yes, I rightly discerned this miracle. Do you understand that? The ability to discern it. The ability to discern it is very, very important. Come on. I'm just trying to show you something. Okay? And throughout Jacob's story it's an amazing story. If you read the story, I won't go. Band, can I have you up? Read the whole story. Jacob's daughter, when they're leaving the house, runs away with Laban's gods. Just get this, church. Laban's daughter, Rachel. Get this. There's so much grace in the story. Okay? She runs away with the father's gods, idols. Look, so you decide who your God is. Today, discern. The ability to discern is properly, you'll understand how I do ministry. Why I do ministry the way I do ministry. You see, she runs away with the father's gods. Crazy, crazy story. And he is now chasing after them, and she has got, beautiful situation, she's chasing after the two girls and the son-in-law with all the herd of cattle and the sheep and the whole thing. And Laban gets to him, but why he's mostly ticked off is because it's okay that you take my daughters and the cattle and run, but the problem is you even took my gods. Wow. That's his problem. Okay? And I'm not saying that Jacob had any other god, but his wife, okay, and their family, they believed in all kinds of things. Otherwise, you won't run away with someone's gods if you don't think that God can help you. Here's the God of Israel helping you, and then you run away with the idols of your father. Come on, just think about it. Okay? I'm trying to show you this God, what he's like. What he's like. And she runs away with these gods, and Laban finds them finally, and finds the two daughters and Jacob, and he says, I'm really ticked off because you took my gods, and it's here in verse 17. Why am I telling you this story? I'm just telling you this story. Because it could have been Nela's story. She's not here. It can be Nela D'Souza's story. It can be maybe one of your stories. I remember Auntie Nela used to come to WOW when she first started, and then she used to have her shrine room with different gods in her shrine room, and she would go to her shrine room and venerate the shrine room all the time. And Fiona told her beautifully, she said, Auntie Nela, she said, do I need to now close my shrine room up if I receive Jesus? Fiona said it beautifully to her. She said, Auntie Nela, the way Jesus works is that he wants to marry you. Okay? So he does want to have exclusivity over your life, but you are in the dating period. So at the moment, he's like dating you. He's wooing you. He's going to be faithful to you. He's going to make sure that you are completely in love with him. So I'm not worried about all the whatever you're doing with your other religions or other gods or anything. I'm not even telling you to get rid of the shrine room like these other pastors say. I trust Jesus. I trust Jesus that you're going to fall in love with him. That's all I know. And one day you're going to marry him. And you're going to be faithful to him. There's no pressure. There's no pressure, because once you start playing church properly, there's no pressure. People fall in love with Jesus. Come on, Jesus. Okay? And I remember she's going to pray for someone, and there were born-again Christians in the scene. And poor thing, Nela doesn't know, she went, at that time she's been 6-7 months, 1 year in the church, and then so she's gone to pray for someone. And while she prayed for the person, she would have told the person, you're going to turn to your left here and face some temple or something. I don't know really what happened, but she was told some sort of way to pray or whatever it is. And then they couldn't rightly discern. It's like, oh, she say they're Christians, but they're practicing other things and stuff like that. Like, hey, come on. At least she's dating, she's coming. God is wooing them. There's so much grace, man. There's so much grace for so many people. This God is not judgmental. This God will woo you, will love you, will be faithful to you, will continue behind you. And here's Rachel with all knowing what Jacob was like, knowing the God that he served. She's run away with her father's gods. And you see the story here. Why am I telling you this story? Because it's a story. It could be your story. And you being able to now's the problem. Now's the problem, because when I tell you Nela's story, then it becomes relevant to you. Like, oh my God, yes. What happens if Nela prayed for me and she told me to turn to the left and face, because the temple of Solomon is on the left hand. So and while she praying, with Jesus' name about my life, she's asking me to, how would you discern that?
Yeah, come on.
Christians. Prayer won't work. No. Why won't prayer work? Because of these. You've forgotten the grace. You've forgotten the mercy that came upon your life when you didn't know anyone. Who is Jesus? Who is the Son of God? How did you get to know Him? Every day I get to know Him as a son every day. Honestly, I can't even tell Him I know Him as the Son of God the way He's supposed to be known. Are you crazy? If I knew Him the way He's supposed to be known, I'll be glorified today. Immortal, undieable. I'm growing every day in knowing who He is to me. So these are just stories. I'm just reading stories. I've not read Samson's story. You should read Samson's story. Man, he was called to be a judge of Israel. Samson, you must listen to his story. He's got a great story. Many of you don't have that story. And then, so Laban finds Jacob, and then he says this. He says, in verse, where are we? Okay. It was somewhere. Where were we? Where did I say it was? Give me a minute, it's important to get. Here we are. It's good. This is good. So he says, Laban tells, finding them, chasing them down, he finds them in verse 28, and he said, you did not allow me to kiss my sons and my daughters. Laban, the father-in-law, is telling Jacob, now you have done foolishly in so doing. It is in my power to do harm to you, but the God of your father, I like this guy, so much grace, the God of your father spoke to me last night. That means, this is not my God. It's so nice. Do you see that? Yeah. Your God spoke to me last night, saying, be careful that you speak to Jacob, neither good nor bad. Is it there? Be fair. No good or evil. You get it there? And now you have surely gone because you greatly long your father's house. But why do you steal my gods? Just what a crazy story. Ajay, isn't that a crazy story? God has spoken to him. The God of Jacob has spoken to him. He's heard the voice and he's asking for his gods back. On a good day when I hear the voice of the Lord, the last thing I'll be looking for is someone else's gods. Okay? But this is the story. This is your story. This is what we do on a daily basis. We do this on a daily basis. Our gods might not look like God with hands and legs or an idol. Our gods can be our food, our exercise, those are the gods. Today, those are the gods. There are no gods with statues. There are gods that you Christians are believing are gods. And then Jacob answered and said to Laban, because I was afraid, for I said, perhaps you would take your daughter from me by force, with whom you ever find your gods, do not let him live, he says. Is it there? If you find your gods with me, do not let the person live. In the presence of our brethren, identify what I have of yours and take it with you. For Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen them. Wow. And now the father goes into Rachel's room and she pulls a phenomenal stunt. This is so good. And Laban went into Jacob's tent and Leah's tent and into the two maids' tent, but he did not find them. And he went out of Leah's tent and entered Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the household idols, so good, but put them in the camel's, whose phone is that? Is mine, okay. Put them in a camel's saddle and sat on them. Is it there? And Laban searched all about the tent, but did not find them. And she said to the father, let it not displease my lord, that I cannot rise before you, for the manner of women is with me. She's got the gods sitting on them, and then she uses the fact that she's got her, is that the right way to say it? Yeah, her menses. Yeah. That to hide the gods and to keep the gods from her father. This is a real story in the Bible. I love the Bible because it doesn't try to hide anything. And he gets fooled and he goes away. And then the interesting thing is that they cut a deal here. And the deal was cut on the fact that, you must read in the story, Jacob, once now Jacob doesn't know the story, so the father goes and doesn't find the gods. And when the father comes, he gets so emboldened. He says, what? Nothing, huh? And he says, you pursued me like this, you thought I was a thief, all this. And he makes this guy feel so bad for going after them. And he cuts the deal right there with this guy. And it was one of the most phenomenal deals. And the whole story is there. But read the deal. This is Jacob's story. So again, he's continuously, it seems that we need to really look at this in a very deep sense. We can't say that Jacob is like any guy I know. Or is he like everyone I know? Is he playing your story? He's not perfect in any way. But this is the guy that God said, he will prevail. This is the guy. He's an everyday guy just like you and me. I mean, I'll tell you story after story. You have to read the story completely through lenses of grace. If you read this Bible in any other way, and that's why people get offended. When they start reading the Bible, the first thing that happens to them, and why people don't like to come to church, is the very reason you're supposed to come to church. What is the first thing? They read the Old Testament and they say, I can't believe God is like that. But that is exactly why the story is there. It's supposed to cause you to say, is God like that? Then, am I missing something? Am I judging wrong? I'm now supposed to rightly divide between good and evil, and my ability to see God in that right light throughout all these stories, like the story I told you that I said, suddenly there's a prophet, his life is 10 minutes, and then he's dead, eaten by a lion. That story for me is something that I need to sit on, decide that God is fair, come to an understanding, search it deeply, and find why that story is righteous. And why what happened in that story I can bring some meaning and sense to. And when I can do that, it will change my life. Do you understand that? Yeah. That's why we do church. That's why we do church. Yeah. I remember, like for the last couple of days, now Philip, today, he was, today Philip, he was in a situation in his life. I'm telling you, it was a serious situation. He was at the doctor's getting angiogram, because for the last couple of months he's been having complication after complication and complication. And he sent me a message yesterday and said, look, I'm going for my angiogram. And when I read the message, I had to, believe me, I had to process a lot of things in my thought process. You go for angiogram because you go for angiogram, you don't come out of angiograms just normally. You come out of angiograms either with a stent or something like that, And I know Philip's food habits. You understand it? I have problems with Philip's food habits. Okay, I have problems with it. I've sat with him. I've explained things. He's tried many diets. He's kept clean for a little while, and he goes back again. He goes to Amsterdam or he goes to Paris or something like that, and then he keeps sending me the pictures. And he keeps sending me the picture, check my breakfast out, and check my diet out, check my diet, okay? And when he sent me this angiogram thing, every picture flashed through my head. Like this, okay? And I had to come to a place, because that's how Philip can have life. I had to come to a place as his pastor where I can look through the same mercy that I have received. You understand that? I've received tremendous mercy upon my life, tremendous grace for healing and power to live the way I am. And I had to now have the right thoughts at that moment of time, because now his life depends on it. Come on, Jesus. I can't afford to start judging now. Do you understand that? You can have the thoughts, but to settle on one, it's going to be a big problem. I had to be able now to rightly divide. And then I was able to tell Philip this one thing, which I told him. I said, and this is the story of all our lives. I said, Philip, no matter what the results are, it doesn't matter. You need to die to it. Die to the results. Why die to the results? Because that's why we do church. We come to a situation where Jesus Christ had to die to everything that he had on the earth to transcend it. So I said, Philip, no matter what the results are, I want you to die to the results. What does dying to the results mean? Dying to the results mean that whether it's good or bad, I'm going to sing praises to you. I'm going to preach your goodness. I'm going to have the same smile on my face. I'm going to do everything that I do just like you are here with me and you love me. It doesn't matter what comes. And then I said, Philip, once you died to it, I said, now let's believe. Because believing for something good is nothing to do with God. Understand that. Believing for something good is what you do with your mind towards something. Okay? What is church? What is life? Life is simply this. Let me explain it to you. Through right relationship with God, we make a better world. But it's not God making a better world. God came as a man. He still comes as a man. And our right relationship with God, now we can believe for healing. We believe for healing. It's nothing to do with God. All we need to do is have a right relationship and come into that darkness where we're struggling with our faith and realize God's goodness and say, Lord, through the darkness, you can bless me. And that's what he came through. That struggle to even say. Just imagine for a man to say, if I go tomorrow and I go to the doctors and it comes out wrong and I have to get a stent or get an open heart surgery or whatever the heck the doctors could say, he need to struggle with that. That was Jacob's struggle. He fought with God and he prevailed last night. Because he came to a situation, he said, Kirby, no matter what the results are, it's going to be completely okay. Now I can believe and set my heart that my heart will be perfect. And he came out, phenomenal report. I can't, honestly, my natural self can't believe it. My spiritual self can, because at least say, like, look at the part and say, yeah, but you've not been eating right so much, so maybe in another 5 years or 2 years, this artery can get blocked, or, something. Nothing. Am I correct? Nothing. Do you understand that? Nothing. And again, we have another narrative, another story that we have to now munch on and understand the goodness of God. Through the struggle, we realize, oh my God, you can bless me. You can bless me through this. There is blessing after this situation. It's coming, man. It's your life. It's your story. Come on. Bless Jesus. Come on. God bless you. Thank you, Jesus.